So I have a confession to make. As I've been talking a lot about manhood and this mantra, this hashtag, this challenge of restoring your manhood, I had a friend challenge me this morning to share this video, and I thought that it was a wonderful idea. So shout out to my buddy John Welch's for provoking this. So yesterday, you may have seen, depending upon where you follow me on social, that I had a blowout on the freeway. And had to get my car towed because, well, Tesla offered a reasonably good solution. They wouldn't put a spare on, and so then I had to get towed, but I couldn't ride in the tow truck because COVID, they wouldn't allow me even in a mask, and that's a whole nother story. So they would take my car to the service shop, but I had to find a ride, and I was like 30 miles away, so I had to call my wife. My wife had to come pick me up. Obviously, I was frustrated. All the while, I'm trying to get to an appointment to record a podcast with a good buddy of mine. I mean, it was just a recipe for frustration disaster. And so when I called my wife, I wasn't happy. As a matter of fact, I was so angry at the way that the dispatcher from Tesla handled the situation that I let some words fly. And some of those words, which are reasonably uncharacteristic of me, not saying it never happens, but were F-bombs. And so it wasn't my proudest moment. I was really frustrated. Everything kind of got resolved as the day went on, even though I missed a few things. But later on in the afternoon, I got home and I didn't have a car. And so I was hanging out at the house, and my youngest daughter, who's 11, I'm like, hey, want to go ride our scooters? We bought 2 scooters, just little push scooters, not the cool electric ones. And so we were riding around, and we decided to come by the office, which is close to my house. And my buddy John, actually, he was here, and we were chit-chatting. I was telling him how frustrated I was, and my daughter Chloe says, I heard. And I'm like, what do you mean you heard? And I just thought, she heard the story and knew what had happened. She goes, I heard you cuss. And I'm like, what? We're like, whoa. And I'm like, come on, what do you mean? She goes, I heard you say the F word more than once. And I was just like, oh gosh. I mean, it's not the ideal word to use anyway, but particularly in front of my children, and especially my 11-year-old child. And so we left my office. We scootered home, and we were out front. And I said, Chloe, I'm really sorry. I said, I shouldn't have used that. I definitely should not have said that, considering maybe that you were in the background as I was talking to mommy. And so I'm really sorry. I don't want to do that again. And so, it was just a lesson for me, definitely a lesson to people who are watching and listening at all times, to kind of temper my frustration when things happen, particularly when it's things outside of my control like that. But ultimately, and what John reminded me of this morning, which I thought was just such a wonderful thing to consider and so wise, was I'm talking about manhood and the definition of manhood and what it means to be a man. And one of the things that defines a man is his willingness and ability to admit when he is wrong. And I'm thankful that I did that, but I want to admit that publicly, that I had a bad moment yesterday, a few of them. And while I thankfully walked through it reasonably well, it's something that we as men need to continue to strive to do. We're not always right. The excuse for my frustration with the blowout and the toe and everything was no excuse for getting frustrated the way that I did, though I didn't point it at anybody. I just expressed it in a way that I shouldn't have. And so it's a lesson that we can all learn. I definitely learned one yesterday. Car is on the mend. I don't have it back yet, but that'll be good. My daughter understands that it was a bad moment, and I'm going to definitely do better in that area. And, for all of us guys out there, man, walk in a manner worthy of what I will say God has called you to, but just walk in a manner worthy of that title of man. Your ability to be a leader, a protector, a provider, to walk with honor and integrity, and a willingness to admit when you're wrong.